Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to Leadership Development with Agility with myself, TK and Arif, the Humble Associates.
That's right. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're back with another webinar live for you here from the UK, where we're broadcasting from. Lovely to have you join us. Please, why don't you tell us where you're joining in from?
Yes, because we've got a great topic for you today. We decided to start this show because we've seen there's such a huge demand to help leaders grow in a way that's compatible with agility. And we had so many inquiries about that. So we thought, why don't we make a live show about it? So thank you for joining. We can see a lot of people joining now. Let us know where you're from. And we can start and talk about the topic.
Yes, we should. Let's get right into it. I'm excited about this week, TK. I don't know about you, but
Me too. I'm always excited about the webinars.
Exactly.
We always get so many great comments.
Give us an emoji reaction as well. We love to. I'll be monitoring the comments as we go through today's webinar, and if you have questions, then put them in the chat. We'll try and answer them as we go along.
So today we'll be talking about something important, which is overcoming your imposter syndrome. I've talked to Arif quite a few times before the show about it, and you actually don't like it to be called a syndrome, right?
Well, yes. I mean, I've talked to other people in this field, development and coaching and that kind of. And one thing that with my peers I've discussed is whether the word syndrome is a correct word or perhaps phenomena is a better word, because the implication of a syndrome is that there's something wrong with you, like an illness that you've developed, that you need correcting or fixing or healing, So that can be a bit challenging, but there's a reason for why it's called syndrome, isn't it, TK?
There definitely is, yes. And it can feel phenomenous. So what we wanted to do before we move on is we have a question for you. If you can let us know in the chat, because we'd love to get to know you. You probably can get to know us, myself and Arif, but we don't know who you are. So let us know if you're a leader, you think about yourself as a leader of any kind. B, if you're an agile practitioner, scrum master, agile coach, or however you want to call yourself, or neither, just a human being. It's C. And you can have any combinations of anything you'd like. So let us know in the comments so we would know who's with us and we can have a great conversation.
Brilliant. Looking forward to that. Thank you very much, everyone.
With that, let's move on and talk about the meat and potatoes of today, which is what is the imposter syndrome or the imposter phenomenon? Arif, if you're so educated about that, let us know. What do you think it is?
Well, you've been doing the research. I thought you were going to introduce it. I was going to share some stories. I'm going to share some stories.
Go ahead, share a story. Let's start with a story.
A bit later. But okay, I'll just set a scene. I experienced a number of years ago. This is going back 2016, 17. I experienced what at that time I couldn't describe. And it was a new role. I had just been, I just started it. I just got assigned to the role, a new organization, sorry. And it was quite overwhelming at first because the responsibility was immediately quite high. And it was not something I'd ever done before. I definitely, at the time when I was going through the interview process, thought, yeah, I can do this. But it was only when landing there, arriving at the office and then starting to speak to people, understand the scope of the work, it started dawning on me, this is much bigger than I initially thought. And so I had these very bizarre, at the time, what I thought bizarre feelings and thoughts coming up in my head, and I couldn't describe them. So maybe I'll leave it there, and then let's carry on with what imposter syndrome, and then I'll pick up what happened to me a bit later on. How about that?
Well, Arif, we already know you're alive, so you had some kind of a plot shield. Because it's like you're now here in the future and it all turned out quite well. But let's talk about like the research that came into this. So two wonderful ladies, Pauline Ross and Suzanne Innes, coined the term in the 70s. And there's three critical attributes for this. One is thinking that people have an exaggerated view of your abilities. 2, the fear of being exposed as a fraud. And 3, continuous tendency to downplay your achievements. So Arif, as you've talked about your experience, which one of the 3 did you experience the most?
Excellent question. So I think I felt definitely the first 2. And it progressively kind of occurred to me over the initial month, 2 months. And it was a real, I was dreading it. I was dreading going into work. That was how, like, debilitating it became at some points.
Yeah.
So why, and what was the background? Well, the role I took on, the initial responsibility on me was to firstly train and then build two teams, applying agility in order to turn around this program of work. And at the same time, it was all on me as being the main primary responsibility holder of coaching and guiding these two teams towards working in an agile way really effectively, at the same time as delivering against the objectives the organization wanted. So it was massive, and I'd never done anything like that before. I had worked in smaller kind of settings where there was one team maybe I'd be working with, and so on. So it was a big step up, and I just kept having this feeling of I shouldn't be doing this. Why am I doing this? Why did they pick me for this role? That was the recurring thing in my mind. Like this isn't for me. This isn't like something I should be doing. Surely they made a mistake. They probably wanted someone more experienced. They couldn't get that person.
Number one,
and they picked me instead. Maybe I was cheaper or something. I don't know. So these really bizarre, and it was really tough. And so the second one about being exposed, that then became a knock-on effect, because you're going in not feeling confident and you're worried about being exposed. So you're worried that people, are thinking, okay, this guy really doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't have a clue. He's inexperienced, etc. And then, so obviously, then you're thinking they're going to expose me at some point, because really they'll find out that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm like the last person who should be doing this role. So that was my experience of and it took me a while to then speak to some people I knew who then directed me to say, look, what you're experiencing is something called imposter syndrome. And I found this resource online, was reading through the site, and I was like, damn, that's me. I was ticking the boxes as I was going along. I was like, yeah, I'm feeling that. It was like an epiphany moment. But then it was like, okay, what do I do with this? So maybe we'll come back to that.
Well, that's quite a story, Arif. Thank you. Yeah, and I think, as we are talking about that, I think today is like a pay it forward, pay it back to help people to overcome their imposter syndrome. But
yes.
So before we move on, dear people and dear viewers, if you could let us know in the comments, put 1, 2, or 3 if you're feeling the imposter syndrome or if you have felt the imposter syndrome before. Maybe comment by giving us a number, which one of these 3 you felt the most. And you can also give us a combination 1, 2, and 3, or maybe there's only one that you felt the most. So 1, it's people think you think that there's an exaggerated view of your skills and abilities. 2, you feel about fear about being exposed, and 3, continuous tendency to downplay your achievements. So another thing that we wanted to talk about today is why is it so damaging for the agile leaders to feel the imposter syndrome? Arif gave a good example about how he felt as an agile leader. But what do you think, Arif, is special about agility in the imposter syndrome here?
That's a good question. I think, I don't know in particular. Yes, in a leadership role, it is very apparent. I think what I would say in this particular type of work, where we're applying agility, there is an onus on you as a leader to work in a very different way to traditional leadership, in the sense of your decision-making approach is different. You're trusting others to support you, to collaborate with you, to work with you. So there's a lot of pressure in terms of, while you may be accountable for things to happen, the ultimate responsibility then is kind of, in many cases, devolved or delegated to other people, right? So when that's happening, I think that adds to the pressure of, okay, so we want you to have the answer, and you're of the view, well, no, it's not me. I need everyone else to help me, and then we'll collectively come to the right understanding, or I will set a direction, and based on that, we'll get to the right answer. So I think that creates added pressure on leaders who are trying to apply agility, where they're maybe already feeling something. And then now we're saying, with this new way of working, or this taking an agile approach to your leadership style, may, exacerbate those feelings. That's probably how I would categorize it. I don't know what you think, TK.
Well, it's a very good point, Arif. Yeah, I actually agree with you.
Yeah.
I think, the thing about leading in an agile way is that you're quite exposed as a leader. if you lead traditionally, you might have a situation where you go into your corner office or you just lead differently, you just bark orders. Obviously, this isn't the agile style of leadership. You're supposed to be reflective, you're supposed to be in the open, you're supposed to welcome feedback, which can only increase the sense of feeling like an imposter. And also, if you don't feel like, you belong, it's very hard to embody the spirit of agile leadership, right? And many people, even if they're in the agile environment, because they feel like imposters, start leading in a very traditional way because it gives them the security. So there's a huge danger when you're working with agility if you feel the imposter syndrome, don't you?
I wanted to add a few other things, and I was looking at the comments, and there's some of you talking about how you're feeling some of those similar thoughts that we talked about in that previous slide, right? Those feelings of feeling like a fraud, feeling like you'll be exposed, etc. And I'm reading the comments, and from doing this kind of work in my coaching work with others, I have noticed, and maybe that's we haven't done enough research on that. I haven't done any research on this, so forgive me. But I have some experience. It does seem to be people of either minority background, so people of color and women, do seem. From my experience, I've seen it occur to them more. And I wonder why that is. I don't know the answer, but it's just that it's something that I've noticed and it's become apparent for me. So I don't know if any of you in the comments want to give a thought on that or an opinion on that. I'd love to see what you think. But this is something that I've come across. And I wonder if there is something linked to the type of work environments we have and how they can maybe create environments where this kind of behavior exacerbates or is kind of dialed down, where things like not knowing is okay, failure is okay, continuous improvement is good. So if we're encouraging certain other behaviors, then maybe some of these other negative thoughts and feelings we have about ourselves maybe don't come up to the surface as violently or as strongly as maybe they would otherwise. That's just my theory. So I will be happily challenged on that. But as I said, if you're watching this and you're listening to that, please put your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to see what you guys think about it.
But there's plenty of research that actually confirms your theory, Arif. I think, it only adds to the fact that, people feel imposter syndrome. And if they feel the overall cultural imposter syndrome, so they, regardless of the roles or skills, they just think they don't belong where they are, it just adds or multiplies up. So, having a skin of the color that I can easily balance my white balance on my camera, I'm probably not that acutely familiar with that. But working with my coaching clients, I definitely know it's the case. And it's not only people with a different skin tone, of a different cultural background, women suffer from it quite a bit. And I'm sure if you want to share some of your experiences in the comments, I'm certain that people, would confirm that, or at least we invite you to do that. But moving on, and this is a very important, and I think maybe one of our future shows will be about leadership in this particular aspects for groups that are marginalized. What we wanted to talk about is how do you deal with that? Not with this big problem we've just mentioned, but just the imposter syndrome. So what are the strategies? And we're going to give you a few. But what we would love you if you could do is, if you've ever dealt with the imposter syndrome and you managed to come out at the other end, like Arif just described his case, what did you do? What were your scenarios? I can give you, Arif gave us a wonderful story, which I think, thank you so much for sharing. I'll share something myself. So whenever I feel like, oh my God, what am I doing here, right? Can I actually be able to do something? I've got a nice tip for you. Hopefully you have this resource. But over the years, I've been quite diligent in getting feedback on LinkedIn, in getting positive endorsements. So whenever I feel like, oh man, can I actually achieve that? Are people, these 3 points, I actually go to LinkedIn and read what have people said about me over the years. I know you can't overuse it. It's, sometimes they maybe exaggerate a bit. And this is point number 1, right? But it really paints a positive picture about yourself. So this is what I do sometimes. Sometimes not only that, we'll give you some others. So let us know what what is it that you do yourself, and we will share a couple of tips that we got from our research and we see working. And the first one is keep a positive mindset. So this is actually when, okay, let's rotate. When we are demeaned by these 3 points, we do our best to actually keep a positive mindset and be mindful that this is just our rumination and this is just what we think. It's not what reality holds.
Yeah. It's a good one, TK. I wanted to add something to that from the work with some clients I've done, where I even get them to speak to a little bit like you with the LinkedIn example. Go find people who you've worked with, ex-colleagues or current colleagues, and get some feedback in terms of what they like about you, what they've seen positive in what you've done before, and how so that I think they can lean on that extra resource and reset their own brain a little bit in terms of what they're thinking isn't really how people see them, and people do see them differently. So that's linked to that. I think it's important to do something like that. I have another suggestion aside from, but maybe we'll come to it, which is to finish my own story, how I kind of got out of the hole, shall we say? But I'll come back to that. So
that's foreshadowing. Arif is trying to give us a cliffhanger. But the thing here is, I think keeping a positive mindset and separating your thoughts from reality by using mindfulness is actually a great way of getting yourself out of any mental health situation. The first step to start is, look, these are just your thoughts.
Yeah.
They may not 100% correlate with reality, right? You're reacting to your thoughts. You're not necessarily reacting to the situation. So it's thoughts, feeling, and situations, the basics of CBD. But this is probably another show for another time. So the second strategy we have for you is celebrate your wins.
Nice.
All right. So celebrate your wins means that it's a difficult one, right? So you do have wins. I'm sure that as you are in your role, there are situations, there are elements of this role or things that you're doing great. You're really crushing it. You're nailing it. And instead of sweeping it under the rug, what you could do is you could actually celebrate it in some ways, right? LinkedIn is a great way of celebrating your wins, but you can also talk to a colleague, talk to your, significant and others, talk to someone in your family, whomever, or even just go to the park and shout, "Yay, I've won." So Arif, have you had any experience with that? I know that you might not be, the name of our company is Humble Associates, so one would say it's not really the most humble thing to do, but then again, it helps, doesn't it?
No, it does. But I had a different take on this one, actually, when I was going through this earlier, and I was thinking to myself, this is really critical for leaders to learn as a skill anyway, which is to celebrate the wins of their staff members and their employees. And I think it adds to the point I made earlier about the environment you create that either exacerbates these feelings of imposter syndrome or lowers them, right? So if you're a leader who's actively, and unexpectedly praising your staff for small things or good, however insignificant their actions are, if you're, especially unexpectedly, if you're praising them, that will really have a positive impact on that person. They'll think they're valued. They think they have a place in that team organization. They think that they are thought highly of. So there's lots of things that just that positive praise, unexpected positive, it can have as an impact. I think we sometimes don't realize that, and from a leadership point of view, I think we overthink it and think, oh yeah, we need to praise that person in terms of reward them financially, or there needs to be something public or something like that. Those are all valid, yes, but just do the simple things first, do the easy things first, or what's in your control. Just thanks. That was a really amazing presentation you did yesterday. Really proud of what you did. It was great. It went down really well, and I thought you did a good job. that could make someone's day.
So Arif just uncovered another strategy. So we as leaders have a huge responsibility and an amazing ability to help people that look up to us for leadership, to help them with their imposter syndrome, right? So if we come and actually give them praise, this alleviates a lot of the problems of this particular syndrome. So thank you so much, Arif. And actually, we have some great comments. Like Naomi said that identify the quick wins early, which, this early is the time when the imposter syndrome is the strongest. Is that your wonderful cat coming, Arif?
Yeah, yes. Olive's decided to join.
Olive obviously...
She always rips off my microphone. And
Cat's also low. So show
Olive
to us. There you go. There's Olive.
There's Olive saying hello.
Cats are one of these animals that don't have any imposter syndrome. They just don't care. They don't...
Shameless.
Hello.
Absolutely shameless.
So there you go. So thank you for that, and thank you for your wonderful comments. We have another strategy for you, which is use social media, but mindfully. Okay, that's a strange one, right? Someone advising you to use social media. Everyone else says don't use social media. But social media is an amazing way to, one, celebrate your wins. Everyone celebrates their wins on LinkedIn, so why shouldn't you, right?
Exactly.
Ask for feedback, which is great, but there's also something more, which is you can use social media to look at other people's stories. Look at how this particular role model, for instance, I don't know, Michelle Obama or Gandhi. Well, Gandhi isn't on LinkedIn, but look at look at the person that's your role model and see their journey. Maybe it doesn't have to be any someone particularly famous person. Look at the person that you yourself look up to
the most.
And see what they're doing, because what will happen, you will notice that they're not that different from you, are they?
No, they're not. Yeah. And the funny thing with that, I've had conversations where people think they get to know you, and they get to know you online, and then when they meet you, they're like really excited. Oh, I'm finally meet you. And it does make you feel a bit uncomfortable, but then you just realize they're just humans like you, and they're the same. You're not anything special. Well, I mean, you can use it to stroke your own ego if you really want to, but
good point.
I wouldn't do that. That's not something I would recommend. But anyway, go on. What
and I think what happens there is it's just interesting to see how real people, being real role models, they can be humble themselves. Most of them are, because if you want to get somewhere, you have to have some self-reflective humility. Sorry, but it doesn't. If you're constantly trying to fake it till you make it, you will reach a point where it isn't possible anymore, and you will reduce the pool of people you are role modeling to. But there's one more strategy which we wanted to share with you, which is make a plan. So Arif, what's this one about?
Well, I mean, I'm guessing this is about journaling as well. Is it something to do with that? Is that what
it is? Yes, but more than that, I think make a plan, write something down, make a list is a general advice if you're in any kind of mental health situation, or slight distress, or even heavier distress, which is, this is why people plan to feel safe when delivering any kind of value, right? Bear with me here. So this is why we fight with it in terms of agility in the agile process, which is people plan sometimes just to feel safe. Even though this is the wrong thing to do, to excessively plan, people still will, because they want to feel safe. So if you're in a situation when you feel this imposter phenomenon, what you can do is actually, okay, fine, let me grab a piece of paper or a tablet or, whatever note software you use, and do lists, do planning, do analysis, so you can prepare yourself for this particular role you're in. And actually, you will notice things that your mind is not telling you at first. You will notice that you've got a grip on it, that everything's under control, that you can handle it, that you understand what you need to do to achieve your results. It feels better, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it's really good. And writing things is a good way to kind of not calm yourself, but just get a sense of how things are, isn't it? What's going on, and reflect. It's a reflective practice, writing things. So there's always a good thing doing that, isn't it, TK?
Always is. And I think, again, if you go back to the first one, which you might remember, keep a positive mindset, writing is a form of mindfulness. You don't have to use writing. If you've seen me on LinkedIn, feel free to invite me to connect. You will actually see that I am live streaming every day as a mindfulness activity, and I call it TK Coach on the Rocks. No, really. I mean, some people are writers. But some people are talkers.
For you, yeah. It's like you like to air out what's going on, what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and I think it's quite brave when you do it, because you're putting yourself out there, right? And then you're being vulnerable to an extent. So there's some of that, and so not everyone is immediately comfortable with all of that, but there are strategies that work for you. So you got to find the strategy that works for you. I've got another one.
Go ahead, Arif. What is it that you're using?
Have we finished this idea? Have we finished? We have got a few minutes. So
yes,
okay.
Go ahead.
So when I was going through that story I was telling you earlier about the challenge I was facing, what worked for me was actually having a mentor / coach. So this was someone who was far more experienced than I was. And at the start, it was very uncomfortable, I must say, and I wasn't expecting this kind of relationship, but the way it developed was perfect. But at the start, it was uncomfortable because, bear in mind, when you're feeling those feelings of like a fraud and being found out and all of that stuff, for me, it was a case of, okay, I need to find someone who can either, basically agree that I shouldn't be here and tell me what I need to do, right? So validate what I'm thinking, or someone who can then teach me what I should be doing, because I clearly don't know what I'm doing, right? So that's kind of what I was looking for. It is a bit, bit crazy, but there you go. That's how my mind was at the time. And the gentleman who recruited me into the organization, as I said, far more experienced. I obviously went back to him. He was technically my line manager, I suppose. I said, look, this is what's going on for me. And he would just basically pull up a chair, sit down with me, and just ask me questions. And initially it was very frustrating because I was like, why are you not just telling me what I need to do?
Yeah.
But what he was doing was effectively coaching me and asking me the right questions for me to open up for myself. Okay, I should be doing this next, right? Okay, this is what I want to. And so it was like every few days we'd go. It was like this kind of, it wasn't a couch, but there was a particular chair office setup table in the office where we'd both sit there. I'd go through what I'm frustrated with or what I'm feeling or what I'm challenged with, and he'd ask me some questions and he'd give me this look, and I was like, oh yeah, I know what I need to do. I already know I should be doing this. And it was this like epiphany. So what I'm saying is this person used a really good approach to basically reflect back what I was doing, what I was thinking, what I was saying, encouraged me to think for myself what I need to do. And it really helped me just get out of that hole super quick. So within, I think, a few weeks, a month, probably a month. No, I think it took a few months. Yeah, a first few months of just, having a regular conversation with him, I calmed down massively, and the feelings really just dialed down a bit, and I was starting to feel more set, more comfortable, and willing to just try things and not worry or fear that I'm doing the wrong thing.
It's a good point. Thank you for sharing the story, Arif. I think it's a great story, and also shows the role of a good leader in all of this, right? As leaders, we might be feeling the imposter syndrome, but also what we can do is pay it forward and help the people that are looking up to us for leadership not to feel it, to feel a bit better. This is the way that Arif described it. But we wouldn't be anywhere if we wouldn't credit our sources. So we got this model from an article called "You're Not an Imposter, You're Actually Pretty Amazing" by Key Sirita from Harvard Business Review, January 2022. So look it up. All these methods are described here with proper sources and more in-depth stuff. And if you want to know more about yourself, and if you want to experience your own style of leadership and feel that you are actually a great leader, we have something special for you. So Arif, what is this about, the journey?
So yeah, we offer like a free assessment where you can assess your leadership style. And as part of that, you get a briefing call with us, and it's a bit like a coaching session, but you'll do a bit of a self-assessment, assess your leadership style, your qualities, where leadership is for you. And then as part of that, we'll have a briefing with you, go through that assessment with you, and ask you some thoughtful questions, hopefully open up some different thoughts and get you to think about where you'd like to go next in your leadership journey. So
Yes.
it's open to anyone. If you're interested, scan the QR code and book a session in, and we'll be more than happy to support you on your journey out of imposter syndrome or whatever it is.
Whatever we call it, right? So go to Humble Associates/journey or scan the code, and we'd love to see you. We'd love to help you so we can be a bit of help, as Arif described. And with that, that's it. This is the final slide. So thank you for joining. It's been a wonderful time hosting you, and we hope to see you in another 2 weeks or in a week for the Agile Q&A.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.